Hi guys, good morning all. Today we are going to discuss about the functional programming. As you know, Python is the combination of both functional programming as well as object-oriented programming. So today we are going to discuss about the functional programming, and going forward in the upcoming classes we'll discuss about the object-oriented programming and all. Okay. So what do you mean by function? Whenever I'm telling functional programming, what do you mean by function? A function can contain a group of statements which perform the task. The advantages of functional programming is maintaining the code is an easy way and code reusability. Now make a note. For example, print is a predefined function in Python which is used to print the output on the console. Now, what are the different types of function? There are majorly two different types of function. One is predefined or built-in function. Another one is called user-defined function. Now coming to predefined or built-in function, for example, as I have told you before, that print. So print is a predefined function or user-defined function, built-in function. Then type. To know the data type of a variable, we use a type function, which is a predefined function. Similarly, to read the input from the keyboard, I'm using the input function, which is again a predefined function. So function which are already coming along with the installation of the Python software, these are called predefined or built-in function. Now similarly, what is user-defined function? Based on requirement, a developer can define his own function. These functions are called user-defined function. So practically, we will see how to define and use a user-defined function and all. Okay. Now function-related terminology. What are the different terminology we used while creating a function and all? If we want to understand the function concept in better way, then we need to focus on function related terminology like def keyword and all, name of the function. Then we will give the parenthesis. Then we will pass certain parameter if required. Then we have to use the colon symbol. Then function body, then return type. And I will say optional and all. Okay, we'll see. While showing the example, we will get much clarity. Now function. A function can contain group of statement. The purpose of function is to perform an operation. A function can contain mainly two parts, defining function, calling a function. Now defining a function, how to define a function? Very first step is we need to define a function. Define a function also called as creating a function. We need to use def keyword to create a function. After def keyword, we should write name of the function. Now after function name, we should write parenthesis. This parenthesis may contain parameter, may not. Parameter are just like a variable which receives the value. If function having parameter, then we need to provide the value while calling it. We will learn more in parameterized function and all. Okay. So what are the concept we are learning here? Everything we will see the practical implementation. At that time, we will be much clear. Okay. Now after parenthesis, we should write the colon symbol. Now after colon symbol, in the next line, we should provide the indentation. Then we have to write the function body and all. Now, what is the function body? Now, actual logic contains by function body. This function body helps to perform the operation. Now, before closing the function may contain return type. Syntax. We are using the def keyword, the name of the function. Inside that, we are passing the parameter. Then we are giving the colon. After that, I am writing the function body. Okay, body of the function to perform the operation. Now, a naming convention to define the function. As discussed in naming convention chapter, function name should be in lowercase. If name having multiple words, then separating word with underscore symbol is a good practice. For example, you can see I have taken a function name called display. So here, all the letter of the display are in lowercase. Okay, these also lowercase, I also, yes, everything lowercase. Now make a note. When we execute above program, the function body not executed. To execute the function body, we need to call the function. So here, as a function body, I have written the print, welcome to function. Whenever you write just a function, like function creation, it will not display anything. That's why as part of output, you can say empty. Nothing is displayed. If you want to display the print function, if you want to execute the function body, then you have to call that function. Now, let's try to understand how to call a function. Calling a function. After function is created, then we need to call that function to execute the function body. While calling the function name should be matched, otherwise it will give error. For example, I'm writing a function, I'm creating a function called display. While calling the function, I have to use the same display only. Then only I'm able to see the output, whatever I have written as part of the function body. Right? The question, can I create more than one function in a single Python program? Yes, we can. Based on requirement, we can create any number of functions inside a Python program and all. For example, let's see. Here I have created two different functions. One is called first, another one is called second. Inside the first function, I have written a print keyword, print method or function. You can see this is my first function. Then inside the second, this is my second function. Okay. Then I'm calling first function and second function. This is first function. Second one is second. This is second function. Now, as I'm calling both the function, I'm able to see the output as a display screen. Now, functions are of two types. Based upon the parameter, we can divide into two types. If I'm passing the parameter, this is called function with parameter, or we call it as parameterized function. If you don't pass the parameter, we call it as function without parameter or no parameterized function. Now, function without parameter. If a function having no parameter, then that function is called as a function without parameter. Their keyword, the name of the function I'm passing, body of the function to perform operation, function calling. Now I'm calling the function which having no parameter. You can see display keyword. Then I'm calling the function. Whatever the body I'm writing inside the display method, that is getting displayed. Why? Because I'm calling the same function. Now function with parameter. Here is an example of without parameter. Okay, without parameter and all. Okay, function with parameter. If a function having parameter, then that function call as now this is the example of non-parameterized function. Okay, fine. Now let's try to understand what do you mean by parameterized function? Function with parameter. If a function having parameters, then that function called as function with parameter. Now why function having parameter? Function parameter help to process the function operation. When we pass parameters, then function captures the parameter value. This value perform the operation. Finally, it brings the result. You can see the syntax. Okay. This function name I'm giving, and I'm just using different type of parameter. That is parameter 1, parameter 2, body of the function and all. Okay. Function calling. Now I'm calling the body of the function and all. Now one parameterized function. Def keyword, testing I'm using a, print one parameterized function, then I'm passing a. Testing 10. One parameterized function and it's printing 10. Why? Because here I'm setting a parameter called a. So while calling the function, I have to pass the value. If I don't pass the value, it will throw the error. As I'm passing one parameter here, so while calling, I have to give one value only. If I'm giving two parameter here, so while calling the function, I have to pass two parameter only, two value only. Okay, so the output I'm getting one parameter function colon, as it is a string type value, it is just printing, then comma a. So instead of a, I'm passing 10. So 10 will go and store in the variable called a. That's what 10 is printing here. Let's take another example. Testing a comma b, two parameterized functions, so two parameter passing here. So while calling, I have to pass two different values, that is 10 and 20. So a will store 10 and 20 will go and store in b. So while printing this, so it will print two parameterized function colon a comma b means 10 comma 20. Clear, guys? Any doubt so far? Any doubt so far? Now, similarly, def addition a comma b. Print addition of two values a plus b. Addition, that is 10 comma 20. Addition of two values, that is equal to 30. Why? Because I'm adding a plus b is nothing but 30 and all. Now, return keyword in Python. Based on return statement, function can be divided into two types. Function without return keyword, function with return statement. Return is a keyword in Python. We should use a return statement with function or method. Otherwise, we will get error. Okay. Now, print statement I'm passing, that is hello. Return, that is 100. Now, syntax error, return outside function. You can see why? Because I'm using a return function, but there is no return keyword, but there is no function present here. But according to the rule, the return is a keyword in Python and we should use the return statement with function or method. Otherwise it will throw error. So here I am just printing a statement like print hello. Below that I am writing return 100. Are you getting my point? So I am not able to see the return statement. It's not able to display the 100. Why? Because I'm not writing the return statement inside any function and all. Okay, so based on return statement, function can be divided into two types: function without return statement, function with return statement. That means if you want to return certain value, first and foremost thing is you have to declare a function. Now, function without return statement. If a function cannot contain return statement, then that function is called as a function without return statement. It is not mandatory to write the return statement to a function. A function without return statement is also valid. For example, here I am declaring a function called balance. I am writing a print statement, that is my bank balance is then column. Then I am calling that function. So it's just printing that string statement, that is my bank balance is, that's all. Now, function with a return statement, based on requirement, we can write a return statement to a function. A function with a return statement is valid. For example, def keyword I am using, the statement I am using, okay, function I am using, then parameter passing, parameter 1, parameter 2 and all. Now body of the function and return result. Okay, now what are the body? So let's say I am declaring the same function like balance, print statement I am writing, and here I am writing a return keyword. Now why calling the function? You can see again it's printing my bank balance is, but I am unable to see the output as 100. Why? Because even though I am returning, I am not holding that value into any variable. For that, while calling the function, I need to store into a variable. So note, if a function contains a return statement, then that function calling we need to assign to a variable. For example, now one of my students asked, why we need to assign to a variable? Yes, I will explain this way in another 5 minutes. Then you can understand. Okay. For example, here you can see def balance. I'm writing print statement, then return 100. Now, while calling the function like balance, I'm assigning to a variable called p. Now I'm printing that variable called p. Now you can see the output is displaying my bank balance is, then below to that 100 I'm able to display. Why? Because return statement is 100. But while calling that, I'm assigning to a variable, that variable I'm printing here. That's why 100 is printing in the console or the output. But in the previous example, guys, even though I'm writing the return statement, while calling the function, I'm not storing into a variable. That's why 100 is not displaying as part of the output. Are you getting my point? That's the only difference. When the return statement is present inside any function or the method, while calling that method or function, you need to assign to a variable. Then only you will be able to see the output as part of this. Clear? Now, why we need to assign a function while calling a variable? Function calling to a variable. If we assign function calling to a variable, then that variable holds the value of the variable, and that variable we can use in the further in our program. For example, here you can see def balance return 100. Now b is equal to balance. Now I am writing certain condition. If b double equal to 0, like b is now holding the value called 100. Is 100 double equal to 0? No. So this print statement will not execute. Now elif condition. If b less than equal to 0, that means 100 less than equal to 0. No. So this condition will not satisfy. So this print statement will not execute. Now the else condition. If all the above conditions are not satisfied, then by default else block will execute. Now print balance is b. Now balance is what is b? What is b hold? B holds 100. So it is giving the output like balance is 100. That's all. Note, below program also valid but not recommended. You can see. So directly while calling the function, I'm keeping inside the print function. Here also I'm able to see the output called 100. But guys, this is not recommended process, but valid. While writing in this way, instead of assigning to a variable and printing that variable in the previous case, like how I'm writing here, while calling the balance function, I'm assigned to a variable, that variable I'm printing. That's why I'm able to see the output as 100. But here, I'm not assigned to a variable, just directly keeping inside a print function. Here also I'm able to see the 100. But this is a valid but not recommended. In the real time, we don't write in this approach. Okay, note, we'll learn this concept again in OOPS chapter in detail chapter. Now let's try to discuss about the last concept, that is return versus none. If a function is not returning anything, then by default that function return none. data type. We can also say as if we are not writing return statement, then default return value is none. You can see def m1 print this function is returning nothing. X is equal to m1, now print x. This function is returning nothing, that is not. Why? Because I have not written anything. Return statement is not present. But still, while calling that function, I am storing into a variable called x, and that x I am trying to print. Here, as there is no return type, the by default return type will be no. That's why it is showing me the output as no. Getting my point? If any return statement will be there, let's say return 100 or return 10 or return 500, then while printing x, it will show me the output as 100 or 500 or 10, whatever it may be. Getting my point? Now, a function can return multiple value also. In Python, a function can return multiple value. If a function is returning multiple value, then we can write a return statement with multiple variable. For example, if function is returning two values, then while function calling, we need to assign two different variables. If a function is returning three values, then while calling the function, we need to assign to three different variables and all. Let's see. Try to understand what is the syntax. Now you can see return value 1, value 2, value 3, and so on. Now see. So inside a m1 function, I have taken two different variables. That is a is equal to 10, b is equal to 11. Now returning a comma b. Now I am trying to call the function. Now you can see m1 I am calling. Now while calling m1, I am assigning to two different variables. Previously, I am assigning to one different variable. Let's say x is equal to m1 or y is equal to m1 and all. Here, I am assigning two different variables. Why? Because I want to represent two different values at the time of return statement. Here, return a comma b. As I am trying to return two different values, that's why while calling the function, I have to assign two different variables. That is, first value is x, second value is y. So first value is 10, second value is 11 and all. Getting my point? Now, define a function which can return multiple value. We can see a is equal to 10, b is equal to 11, c is equal to 12. Now return a comma b comma c. So x comma y comma z is equal to m1. Now first value is x, second value is y, third value is z. Now first value is x, x is nothing but what? Which is the value of a, because x contains the value of a, y contains the value of b, z contains the value of c. So x is nothing but 10, y is nothing but 11, z is nothing but 12. The whole three different value. Getting my point? That's all about the functional programming part 1, guys. Still, it has not completed. The rest of the concept we'll discuss as part of the functional programming part 2. So once part 2 will complete, then we'll dig dive into object-oriented programming language. We'll try to understand what is the object-oriented programming side of the Python. Okay, so by that time, we just do the practice, okay, and enjoy. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye.